Do you think you compared with Rishi Sunak yesterday, but also Keir Starmer today?
Well, firstly, it was interesting that Sunak advanced his speech. I say because he knew that I was speaking. Others might say it was because Starmer was speaking. Look, the bottom line is there was absolute clear water between the three speeches. We've just heard from Keir Starmer. Lots of warm waffle. Just like Rishi Sunak. Lots of warm waffle. But where's the specifics? We've got a nation in absolute crisis. And the only specific, as Olivia's just said, from Keir Starmer, is devolution, in inverted commas. That's actually code word for more bureaucratic, bungling blockages down the track. What I put forward, I'm the only person who put forward an absolute, clear, financial specific. Right? We've got a cost of living crisis. We've got an inflation crisis. Wherever you look, there are crises. I said, with a clear mandate, clear specific, you've got to lift the starting point to which anybody pays income tax from 12.5 grand to 20 grand. That's 30 quid a week. We've got to help the 5.2 million people on out-of-work benefits, talent, opportunity. Everybody talks about that. Nobody specifies on the people on benefits that we've got to get back into work rather than importing cheap overseas labour. So that was the real specific. I set out how we pay for it, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
You don't get warm. You're not going to get lots of warm, cuddly waffle from me, Bev. What you're going to get is action, specifics, dealing with the challenges and the crises facing the country now, not 10 years down the track.
So what do you make then of when one of the reporters did say to Keir Starmer, you know, how are you going to are you going to match the Conservatives with your spending plan? He says, well, we just can't decide that yet. He has a point, though, doesn't he? Until he's sat in that seat with the numbers in front of him, he can't do the maths, can he?
Nonsense. That's pathetic. That's just kicking the can down the road. We identify what the problem is. We say, right, here's a solution. This is the approximate cost, right? And this is what the government of the day should do. Now, look, the reality is we know that there's probably not going to be a general election for 18, 20 months. But I'm saying, look, this is what needs to happen now. It's like just in the beginning of December, I put forward a clear plan for the health and social care. Costed, how you deal with it. I said, for 3 years, all frontline patient-facing staff in the NHS, private healthcare, social care, should have zero basic rate income tax. That would retain staff, it would attract staff back. We haven't got time to train lots of new people. The crisis is now. So I set out the costs, I set out how you do with it, and I set out how you fund it. There's none of that from the two main leaders.
Well, I asked our viewers and listeners to send in some questions for you specifically. I said I would be diplomatic about them, but I don't really need to be, because they really do like you. There's a note of surprise in my voice, though. I'm sorry about that. I said I was going to be diplomatic. Here's a question for you, then. Will Richard get rid of legal aid lawyers to cure the immigration problem, or force people to? That's one. And then what are your policies about the situation in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, so on the issue of illegal immigration, we're the only party that has got a clear 6-point plan to deal with the illegal immigrant crisis across the Channel, which will get worse and worse. And we've based it on what successfully worked in Australia. So we've got a clear plan there. And yes, I wouldn't allow people who've come here illegally to claim legal aid at the cost of British taxpayers when they've already paid £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 to get on the boat in the first place. Frankly, if they've got that sort of money to pay to get here, then if they need a bit of legal advice, then I think most people would say, well, you can pay it yourself. And with regard to Northern Ireland, look, there is a major crisis here. The Northern Ireland Protocol isn't working. We said at the time it wouldn't work, and I think that the Northern Ireland Protocol bill, it's a step in the right direction, but fundamentally, we've got to get tough. We've got to make it quite clear to the EU that we would invoke the Article 16 of the protocol unless you give them a very short time frame to reorganise everything that's not working. I'd give them 3 or 4 weeks. And Sunak, he's bottled it. He's shelved it.
Why?
Because he wants to be cuddly and nice, and that's all very well, but the EU will literally take advantage of that. And I promise you, we will be here months and months down the track. Nothing will have happened. They'll still be talking about it. There'll still be huge problems in Northern Ireland. The situation will be getting worse. Reform is the only party with the courage to stand up and say, enough is enough. Northern Ireland has been partitioned from the rest of the UK, and it's unacceptable.
What did you make of... I've heard what you said about Starmer's speech today, and I know you said there's a lot of warm waffle in Rishi Sunak as well, but what did you make of the rest of Rishi Sunak's speech yesterday? What do you think of his idea for maths until the age of 18, for instance? That was a big pull-out headline. It missed the mark. So...
Missed the mark? I mean, it's like, you know, it's like taking a penalty and kicking it to the sideline, not even towards the goal. I mean, for heaven's sake, there's a national crisis everywhere. And he waffles on about teaching 17, 18-year-old maths when we haven't even got enough maths teachers to teach kids at primary school. We've got to deal with the crisis at hand. If you look at his 5 key things, actually, there was no measurement targets there, really, and he refused to put a timetable on those things. And with regard to the immigration issue, look, at the beginning of last year, the Tories said, under whichever Prime Minister was the leader at the time, I think it was Boris, said, we've got to have a new nationality and borders bill. That would solve the problem. Well, it didn't. So now, Sunak says, we've got to have another piece of legislation. I think people are tired of listening to this waffle. They want to know if someone's going to actually sort it out. So he refuses to put any detail, any timetable on any of this, and I think people just don't believe it anymore.
Yeah.